Welcome back, everybody, to another teachable moment with Dr. Mekia Troy on the Educational AD podcast. We'll be right back with Dr. Troy's segment, but as always, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all national companies. You should be using them too. So stay with us. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider for schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We want to say thanks to Gipper, the official social media graphics solution for the podcast. And if you go to Gipper.com, their team will show you how to create world-class content to help you celebrate your athletes and promote your teams. Gipper's used and trusted by over 3,000 athletic programs across the country. It's professional graphic design made simple. Go to Gipper.com to get started. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to their website and check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's a great way to show off your school record boards for all the teams, for all the sports, or your school's Hall of Fame, or simply showcase your school's proudest moments. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to say thanks to Home Campus, the exclusive high school and state association management platform for us. It's also a platform you're going to use every single day for things like scheduling, student athlete eligibility and clearance. Who doesn't do that every day? Digital forms and uploads, communicating with parents, with your state association, with other coaches. If you're an AD, Home Campus will help you do everything better. Go to homecampus.com to get started today. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo, see their scoreboards and their score tables in action. Their products not only generate income for your department, they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We want to thank Huddle for their support. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that let them coach our kids up to their highest level. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at SnapRaise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and then ended up with little, if any, return? Go to snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with tremendous success, and so will you. It works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other platforms, but snapraise.com is the fundraiser you should be using. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic directors already hear from the complainers, the people who want to gripe about everything. Athletic Surveys will connect you to that group, but they'll also connect you to the 98% that support your program. And that's a tremendously valuable tool to have when you're talking with a frustrated parent or your principal or your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to help you take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everybody, to another teachable moment on the Educational AD podcast. If you're a regular listener, you know our guest, Dr. Mekia Troy. She is a certified master athletic administrator. She's the director of athletics at Creekside High School in Georgia, very successful athletic program, also very active at the state and at the national level. She's a member of the NIAAA National Teaching Faculty. Every week, she sits down with us and shares her heart and her wisdom on a series that we call Teachable Moment. So, Dr. Troy, welcome back. And what do you have for our listeners this week on Teachable Moment?
Thanks so much. Always good to join you. Well, today, talk a little bit about culture. And not just culture, but culture keepers, which is a term that I've learned. So, but the first thing you need to look at is what is culture? As it pertains to the LTI course that I work with, 706, culture is the values, beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors that are shared by a team. It's who you are, it's what you do, And I think one of the challenges that athletic administrators often run into is that when you're managing staff, student athletes, uh, and parents in some ways, and they all have differing viewpoints and personalities influencing the team, that can also impact the culture of what you have throughout your athletic department. And that's not easy, but there are techniques to try to hone in on what it is that we do and to make sure that we are representing properly what we want to put out to the public. But first, we have to recognize that there is a culture that does exist, and it happens whether it's intentional or not. There's a quote that one of my colleagues likes to say all the time is that your culture is by design or by default. So whether you're trying to do it or not, that culture is going to exist. So there's some intentionality that has to take place when you are determining who you are and what it is that you represent as an athletic department. So additionally, there's also the question of what you allow that influences your cultures too. I like to keep notes in my phone, and there's a quote that I got. I don't remember who said it, but the quote says that culture of an organization is shaped by the worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate. Culture of an organization is shaped by the worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate. And what's tolerated and allowed might appear to be what you promote, unless you are putting something else out there that refutes that, or finding some way for you or your stakeholders to address those things. And that's where the idea of culture keepers comes into play. This is something that I learned from the Positive Coaching Alliance, having culture keepers that you identify that'll help hold other people accountable to represent what your athletic department is really trying to stand for, and to be examples or exemplars of that particular culture. Those culture keepers can be student athletes, it can be coaches, parents, anyone, but as a part of your overall team, they carry the identity of what it is that you're trying to represent with their words and their behaviors. And if your program is one that needs to make a shift in that direction, then your culture keepers will be the ones that'll be most vocal to make sure that they are expressing the language that needs to be shared to identify what your culture is and really control the narrative of what you intend to be as an athletic department. So identify those folks, communicate with them, make sure that we are sharing the same message and carrying that out to others and representing those values that you want to be known for as an athletic department. And then you have a hand in the design of your culture and not just sit back and wait to see what happens by default and let the chips fall where they may. I'll say for us here at Creekside, I have, I guess, the benefit of having several teachers on staff who have student athletes in our program. So they help to be culture keepers. We have coaches who have children in the program. We have alum that are coaching on the staff. So these people all help us to maintain the culture of what we want Creekside Athletics to be. So I believe that helps us a lot. So identify those people, bring them on board, make sure they're part of what it is you want your athletic department to represent, and let those culture keepers help you to do that work.
Well, I love the topic, and you probably heard me speak on this before. I have a couple of culture presentations. One question I'll ask the group, like say it's a group of coaches at one school, I'll say, "What's the culture at your school?" And then the punchline is, "It's whatever you decide it's going to be." Another one you talked about, permit and promote. I first heard a version of that years and years ago, but again, I adopted it and used it, for almost 30 years probably. And I'll say that everything we see at your school, everything we see at Creekside, everything we see at my school, everything we see at your school, it's either coached or it's allowed. Now, which one is it for you? And so all those things you mentioned are absolutely true. And I love that term. I haven't heard it before, but guess what? I'm stealing it. Culture keepers, culture keepers. Um, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. I know one way to kind of help ensure that you have culture keepers at your school is in the hiring process. When you're interviewing somebody, either direct question or through their responses, you kind of figure out if they're going to buy into your culture. Um, Suppose you've got that veteran coach as a new AD or just somebody, the expression I like to use, frequently goes rogue. How do you bring that person back in? What are some things that you do for your coaches to, nurture that culture keeper?
Right. Well, there's a question that I learned through Inside Out Coaching and Joe Ehrman and that program. And one of those questions that I like to ask of coaches is, how does it feel to be coached by you? And it gives them an opportunity to reflect on what that's like to actually be that coach. Are you really trying to nurture and influence and positively influence our student athletes as people beyond just them as athletes? Are you just mimicking what your coaches did for you years ago and just taking that on as that's the best way to be successful? And some coaches do that, but does that mean that it works now? It might not. You want to make sure that you're being effective as a coach. Just because it worked, you know, 20 years ago doesn't mean it's still effective now. So, I mean, it could be, but you find ways to adjust and adapt to the environment that you're in. And if those adjustments need to be made, then that's something that we have to address. You can tell how students feel when they're coached by you. Doesn't mean you have to be soft, doesn't mean that you can't be tough. But as they say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They have to feel that you care about them even when you're being tough on them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's those relationships that allow you to, like you said, be tough when you have to. Yeah, this is how we roll, but
Mhm.
having built that relationship really helps. Mekia, always great to spend time with you. If somebody's new to the podcast and they want to reach out and add you to their network, and listeners, you heard me say it before, you've got a great resource here. What's the best way they can connect with Dr. Troy?
Right. Email is always good. drtroyme@gmail.com. That's DRTROYME@gmail. Twitter @drtroyme. Reach out. Be happy to share.
Okay. Dr. Mekia Troy, Creekside High School, and the NIAAA faculty. Thanks so much for sharing with our listeners today, and all the best as we continue with our march into spring sports.
Mhm. Thank you so much.
Hey, for our listeners, we appreciate you too. And we do this every single week. We also upload the Zoom recordings to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Thanks as always for listening. Come back next Thursday for another teachable moment, and just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you later. I love the talks about culture. Great stuff from Dr. Troy. Before we go, as always, we want to give one more shout out to our sponsors that help make this happen. And these are not just people that pay me, these are companies that I used as an athletic director. I let them pay me because they're all great companies. You should be using them too. Let's say thanks to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. If you're not doing surveys with your parents, your kids, your coaches, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Home Campus is a platform that I used every single day as an athletic director, and you're going to use it too. Go to homecampus.com to get signed up. Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards, probably the best purchase I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com. If you're looking for a fundraiser, stop right here. Go to snapraise.com. That's snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Mention the podcast, you'll get a nice discount. We want to thank Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle. As an AD, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com for more information. And finally, we want to thank Gipper, the official social media graphics solution for us. Go to Gipper.com, start creating world-class content for your school's social media channel. That's Gipper.com. We'll see you next time on another teachable moment.